Willow and I were a pair of doomed lovers, locked in a cycle of mutual torment that drove us to the brink of madness. Every day, we either cursed each other's entire family or resorted to outright physical fights. In the end, I even swore, whoever doesn't get divorced is a damn dog. On our way to finalizing the divorce, we hurled the most vicious insults at each other. But then, when the fuel tanker came crashing toward us, she threw herself over the driver's seat, shielding me with her body. Because of her, I lived exactly 0.01 seconds longer. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the summer after our sophomore year in high school. Right in front of me, Willow gave me an indifferent look and begrudgingly said she was willing to give dating me a try. But the second those words left her mouth, she lifted her gaze, her expression instantly twisting into disgust, and in that brief moment of eye contact, I knew she had come back too. Chapter 1. I found a stack of David's portraits in Willow's cabinet. My heart shattered, but I knew this was just another one of her tantrums. Before I could even open my mouth to question her, she glared at me furiously and demanded an apology. Her face flushed red as she shouted, "Forget about me thinking of him for a second. Do you seriously think you did nothing wrong by rummaging through my stuff?" Before I could respond, she slapped me hard. Fuck. Without a second thought, I slapped her back, just as hard, leaving a deep, crimson handprint on her cheek. Her eyes widened with rage, and she lunged at me, clawing at my face. She screamed, "How dare you hit me? Are you insane?" I grabbed the sketches and threw them in her face. I spat, "I'm insane. You're the one who's fucking insane. Who the hell secretly sketches their own brother-in-law, and even fantasizes about his damn abs? Tell me, Willow, when the fuck did my brother ever have abs? You're a married woman. What kind of perverted crush is this?" Willow's eyes turned red as she stared at the scattered drawings on the floor. She bit her lip and hissed, "George, I've never met anyone as despicable and vile as you. You're just jealous of David. You hate him because you know you'll never measure up. You can't even compare to a fraction of him. Why wasn't it you who died back then?" I'd heard this line 1,000 times before, but no matter how many times she said it, it still made me lose my mind. I grabbed a chair and charged at her. I roared, "I'll fucking kill you." That day, we beat each other to the point that we ended up at the police station. A cop looked me over and asked, "Domestic violence?" I let out a cold laugh. "This is mutual combat. Got it? Don't start crying domestic violence just because you lost. Try not to be so shamelessly biased." I looked disheveled, with scratches all over my face. But Willow, she was a mess. Her hair tangled and blood dripping from her forehead. This round was my victory. The moment we walked out of the station, we pointed at each other's faces. This marriage is over. Whoever doesn't go through with the divorce is a damn dog. Chapter 2. Who would have thought that we'd die on our way to finalizing our divorce? Just a second before the fuel tanker crashed into us, she was yelling at me, calling me a sick pervert for rummaging through her things. I shot back, calling her a delusional creep with a perverse obsession. Willow, fuming, retorted, "The only one I've ever liked is David. From the beginning to the end, it's always been David. If you didn't look exactly like him, do you really think I would have ever agreed to be with you? George, take a good look at yourself. What part of you could ever compare to David?" The thing I hated most in this lifetime was being constantly compared to my younger brother, David. Even though he was dead, I still had to live in his shadow. Why? We were in the middle of screaming at each other when a deafening screech filled the air. The fuel tanker had lost control and was barreling toward us. My mind went blank. I had no time to react, no time to turn the wheel. Willow's face went pale, and in the next second, she lunged forward, throwing herself over me, shielding my body with half of hers. I stared at her in shock. This woman, the one who had been entangled with me for the past 10 years. We were never good together. We fought, we bickered, and we never stopped. So why didn't we separate? People had asked her that before. People had asked me too. She never answered. I just kept my head down and smoked. Neither of us could say why. Just like that year, the year she suddenly stopped me in the hallway, looking lost and pitiful, asking if my offer still stood. She was willing to give it a try. How strange. Just a few days before, she had rejected my confession outright, saying she wasn't interested in dating, only in focusing on her studies. And yet, a few days later, she had suddenly changed her mind. It took me years to find out the truth. She had liked David, but David had turned her down. Heartbroken, she had turned around, and saw me, saw my face, identical to David's, and without thinking, she walked toward me. She used me as a substitute. She looked at me and remembered him. 10 years. She deserved to die. She should have died. Who asked her to save me? All she did was give me an extra 0.01 seconds to live. How unlucky. Well, a debt is paid in death. Everything between us could finally turn to smoke and fade away. In the next life, if I opened my eyes, shit, the moment I opened my eyes, I saw 17-year-old Willow. How did I know she was 17? Because the moment she lifted her eyes, those icy almond-shaped eyes of hers glanced at me, and that look reminded me of the way she had looked at me when I first confessed. Disgusted, she had given me the same look back then and sneered, calling me so painfully dull. She had asked me what era I thought we were living in, who still used roses to confess. She said she liked swallowtails, because they symbolized freedom, untethered and unbound. Wasn't that beautiful? No, I didn't think so. Roses represented love. If I liked someone, I would give them roses. Take it or leave it. She left it. So from that day until the moment we died under the wheels of that tanker, I never gave her another flower. Reincarnating to this moment, not a good thing. In fact, it was even worse luck than before. And the worst part? Willow lifted her head. The moment our eyes met, we both saw something familiar in each other's gaze. Well, I didn't even need to think. She had come back too. Chapter 3. That summer was unbearably hot. Senior year was approaching fast. Some people were running from one tutoring class to another, while others had private lessons at home. But me, I did nothing. Every day, I wandered aimlessly. I left home before dawn and only dragged myself back unwillingly at dinner time. Today was no different. I kicked pebbles along the road, radiating resentment so thick that people could probably feel it from 5 meters away. And then, I saw Willow. For a split second, I felt nervous. I liked her. She was the first person I ever had feelings for, sweet and bitter all at once. But she had rejected my confession, tossed away the flowers I gave her. With a distant smile, she told me she was only focused on studying and had no interest in dating. I turned and left, swearing I would never like her again. But now, as she slowly walked toward me, my heart pounded uncontrollably, and I couldn't move. Then she said, "Do you still mean what you said that day? Should we give it a try?" I barely thought before nodding frantically. That moment of utterly shameless, spineless submission, it would become the greatest humiliation of my life. Now that I had another chance, I didn't hesitate. I let out a cold laugh and silently flipped her off. Willow stomped her foot in anger and stormed away. 10 minutes later, we met again, this time at my front door. Alicia stood there, gripping the doorframe, her face full of suspicion and wariness as she stared at Willow. "Who are you looking for?" Alicia asked. Willow's face turned red. She looked flustered, uneasy, even a little nervous. "Ma'am, I'm looking for David. Could you let me see him? I have something to say to him." Alicia frowned. "Why are you looking for David? Who are you?" Her hostility was tangible now, her eyes sharp and threatening. Willow seemed startled but still tried to speak. I clicked my tongue impatiently. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I scowled. "Didn't I already tell you I'm not interested? Why are you showing up at my house? Do you think going to my brother will help you? Don't you know he's the one I despise the most? Come with me." Under Alicia's suspicious gaze, I yanked Willow downstairs. She huffed, shook off my hand, and put her hands on her hips. "I know you came back too," she said, glaring. "I don't want to hold on to the past anymore. If you think I wronged you, I'll apologize. But George, you should understand, coming back to this moment is a rare opportunity. No matter what, I'm going to save David this time. I'm not asking for your help, but don't get in my way or I won't forgive you." I listened, expressionless, as she delivered her little speech. When she finally finished, I laughed, coldly. "Who the hell do you think you are, idiot?" I thought about it. How many girls had liked David? He was exceptional, kind, brilliant, the perfect student. At school, he was always ranked first, a top candidate for the country's best universities, a prodigy destined to be a national exam champion. He excelled in every competition, math, physics, calligraphy, music, he did it all flawlessly. And yet, he never acted superior. He was polite to everyone, always carrying a gentle, polite smile. At home, he was our parents' pride, the family's shining hope, praised by everyone. He was obedient and filial, never once disobeyed an elder, no matter how unreasonable the request. He would always nod and comply. But that same David, the star of our family, on the day he received his national exam results, on the day our parents threw a grand banquet to celebrate him, on the day everyone envied him, he climbed to the rooftop and jumped. No one knew why he killed himself, not even me. But as the years passed, as memories played back over and over, I began to see the cracks beneath the perfect surface. Chapter 4. After parting ways with Willow on bad terms, I strolled back home at an unhurried pace. The moment I stepped through the door, I saw Alicia holding a glass of milk for David. Her expression was warm as she gently stroked his back. "In a little while, I'll take you to Mr. Byes. He says you're improving quickly, but you mustn't get complacent. You have to keep working hard. By the way, do you really not know that girl from earlier? Hand me your phone. I'll check." "David, this is a crucial time. You must not be like George, hanging around with those no-good girls. George is already a lost cause. You're all I have left. You have to make me proud. Now, drink your milk while it's still warm." Alicia had already noticed my presence, but she didn't care. She didn't even try to hide the disdain in her eyes as she rolled them at me. I thought to myself, since I was already labeled as the lost cause of the family, I might as well live up to the name. I took a few steps forward and snatched the glass from David's hands, smashing it onto the floor with a loud crash. "George, what the hell are you doing?" Alicia screamed hysterically. I raised an eyebrow and said lazily, "If I can't have the milk, then David doesn't get to have it either." Had I ever had milk when I was little? I couldn't remember. All I knew was that ever since I became aware of things, nothing good in this house had ever been meant for me. Whenever I tried to reach for something, nutritious meals, carefully prepared dishes, Alicia's hand would come down on mine with a sharp slap. "What do you think you're doing? That's for David. Feeding you is a waste. I'd rather feed it to a dog. At least a dog can guard the house. What can you do?" At first, I cried and threw tantrums, demanding what was mine. But all I ever got in return was a beating. Alicia never held back when she hit me. She would raise her hand high, and when it came down, smack, the sound would echo in the room. My head snapped to the side from the impact, my face stinging, my mind buzzing. "George, have you lost your damn mind?" she shrieked. "You think you deserve to drink milk, with those grades of yours? Trying to compare yourself to David? Look at yourself. What part of you even comes close? Get out. You're not welcome in this house." She grabbed the ruler from the table, ready to beat me with it. But this time, I didn't just stand there and take it. I turned and ran. As I sprinted, I knocked over chairs, tables, flower vases, whatever I could get my hands on. The house filled with the sound of shattering glass and crashing furniture. Alicia screamed, chasing after me. But no matter how chaotic it got, no matter how loud, no matter how violent, David sat there, perfectly still. He didn't try to stop me. He didn't try to stop her. He just sat there, watching. And then, he calmly picked up the book on the table and started reading. It wasn't until I snatched his phone that he finally reacted. For the first time, he looked up at me. For a brief moment, I saw confusion flicker in his cold gaze, before it froze over again. Frozen, as he watched me dash into his room and slam the door shut. The first thing I did was try to lock it, but the lock was broken. It didn't even have that function. So I had no choice but to press my back against the door, using my body to hold it shut. Outside, Alicia was kicking the door, screaming profanities. I grinned, twisted and exhilarated, as I unlocked the phone. Then, at the top of my lungs, I yelled, "Hello, police. My mom is trying to kill me. You need to come save me." Chapter 5. Alicia was taken away. She resisted the whole time, even scratched a police officer's neck, and swore she'd kill me. As a result, she was given 24 hours of detention. The officer looked at me with a mix of sympathy and concern. He asked if I needed help contacting other family members. He gently told me that their hands were tied, that if I insisted on having Alicia detained, things would only get worse for me when she got out. I nodded repeatedly, thanked him for his concern, but I insisted. She had to be detained, at the very least, I said. "I'll get one good night's sleep." The officer's gaze softened with pity. Then he pointed at David. "Is he your older brother or younger?" he asked. "Is he okay compared to me?" David, who sat motionless, staring into space, seemed more worrying. I let out a bitter laugh, tapped my temple, and said loudly enough for David to hear. "Him? His brain's broken. He's an idiot." David froze, his jaw tightening. Out of humanitarian concern, the officers called our father, the father who was always away, working non-stop, the father who only came home for holidays or when David achieved something great. He apologized to the police politely, promised to return soon, and assured them he'd handle his wife. But I knew, at the very least, he wouldn't be coming back for the next 2 days. After the police left, I yawned. David stood there, staring at me with an unreadable expression. I stretched, then casually strolled into David's bedroom and sprawled onto his bed without hesitation. 5 minutes later, footsteps approached. I opened my eyes to see David standing at the bedside, his face cold. "This is my room," he said, frowning. "Oh," I replied, "please leave, and if I don't, this is my room." That's all he could say. Wasn't this the same guy whose essays always got published as model examples? I smirked. "What, you treating this bed like your wife or something?" David clenched his jaw even tighter. His gaze darkened. I continued lazily. "If not, then let me borrow it for the night. This is the first time I've slept on a bed this soft, under a blanket this plush. Now get lost, and don't forget to close the door on your way out." I shut my eyes, ignoring him. After a long while, he finally turned and left. And yeah, he really did close the door for me, though not very gently. So he did have emotions after all. I always thought he was just a block of wood, rolling over. I buried myself in the blanket. I wasn't trying to provoke him. I was simply stating a fact, because in this 3-bedroom apartment, I didn't have a room. I used to have one, a tiny, dimly lit study. But then David started learning piano. And in order to make space for that grand piano worth tens of thousands, Alicia emptied out my room. Then she built a makeshift partition on the balcony. The space was so small that not even a single bed could fit. So Alicia bought me a folding cot instead. Martin, my father, protested. You're being ridiculous. Where's George supposed to sleep? Alicia waved him off without a care. What else can we do? The house isn't big enough. Mr. Bai said David has exceptional talent in piano. He could be the next Lang Lang. We all have to make sacrifices for David. If George was as capable as him, I'd treat him well too. Martin stayed silent for a long time. Then he sighed and said nothing more. And so, I moved into that cramped little balcony and lived there for almost 10 years. I resented Alicia. I resented Martin. But the one I hated the most was David. He accepted everything so easily. He never once spoke up when Alicia mistreated me. Not once. I had looked at him countless times, hoping, waiting. But every time, my hope turned to disappointment. Even worse, I started to think that when he looked at me, his eyes weren't just cold, they were condescending, enjoying it, as if he hated me just as much as I hated him. But why? What the hell did he have to hate me for? That night, I drifted in and out of dreams. I dreamed of Alicia. I dreamed of Martin. But mostly, I dreamed of David and Willow. David, splattered on the pavement, skull cracked open, face unrecognizable. People screamed in horror, one after another. They shook me by the shoulders, demanding, "Why wasn't it you who died?" Their twisted faces blurred, and then they became Willow's. She grabbed me by the throat, her voice hysterical, her fingers tightening. "Why wasn't it you who died?" Chapter 6. I jolted awake from my nightmare, drenched in sweat. The moment I opened the door, I saw Willow standing outside, facing David. Her cheeks were flushed, her hands fidgeting. She looked every bit like a girl experiencing first love, innocent, sweet, shy. "Good morning, David." She greeted him softly. "Have you had breakfast? I made some myself. Do you want to try it?" She held up the food like it was some kind of treasure. Not just some, but a lot. David, standing in the doorway, didn't let her in. His voice was flat. "No, thank you. May I ask why you've come to my house?" Willow's smile stiffened. Her gaze wavered, then landed on me. I am here to see George," she stammered. She followed me in silence, looking pitiful the whole way. She didn't even react when I took her breakfast from her hands. A sandwich, porridge, and finally, she handed me a beef bun. "From South Street, your favorite," she said. I stopped walking. South Street's beef buns, thin-skinned, packed with juicy, slightly spicy filling. It was my absolute favorite breakfast back in high school, best paired with a freshly ground soy milk. But Willow never liked them. Every time I stopped by that shop, I would also go next door and buy her a croissant with coffee. Yet every time, she'd sneer. "Why do you always buy these nasty stuffed things? Who knows what kind of meat they use? So low class. I don't even like them. Don't buy them for me next time." Even when I told her, "I like them, I eat them. You don't have to." She never listened. She always acted as if I was buying them for her. Now, I finally understood. It wasn't that she forgot my preferences. It wasn't that she thought everything I bought was for her. She just wanted an excuse to belittle what I liked, to make herself feel superior. The realization hit me like a slap, so I gave her one right back. A sharp smack across her face. Willow gasped, clutching her cheek. "What the hell? Why are you hitting me again?" she cried. "Try to manipulate me again, and I'll hit you again," I said coldly. She bit her lip, eyes brimming with tears. "I don't ever want to talk to you again." I laughed. "You don't want to talk to me? I don't want to talk to you either. Goodbye." She stomped her foot, furious. "Fine. Goodbye forever." 2 hours later, at a fried chicken shop, we locked eyes again. She gawked. "What are you doing here?" I smiled politely. "Welcome to fried chicken." She blinked in confusion. I kept up my fake smile. This place, named literally Fried Chicken, was owned by her cousin. At that moment, she was interrogating him. "You hired him?" she demanded. "You do realize he's underage, right? That's illegal." Her cousin grinned. "Well, you don't say anything." "I don't say anything. Who's gonna know?" Willow turned to me, eyes narrowing. "Why are you working here? Did you pick this place because you thought my cousin would be easy to fool? Why do you even need a job?" I smirked and enunciated clearly. "None of your damn business." That afternoon, I worked the counter while Willow sulked in the corner, puffed up like an angry little pufferfish. At some point, I glanced over, only to find her head tilted back, mouth slightly open, fast asleep. Her cousin clapped me on the shoulder. "George, does my cousin like you? Are you too involved?" I silently wiped down the table. "She likes my brother," I said. Cousin frowned. "What? My identical twin brother?" I clarified. He stared. "Holy shit. Substitute romance. She's a total scumbag. If you say so." No, wait here. I have to beat some sense into her. Good news number 1, Willow got chased out of the store by her cousin, ducking and dodging a broom. Good news number 2, I officially passed my probation period and landed the job. $10 an hour, double pay on holidays, paid monthly. When I left the shop, Willow was still sulking against the wall. She stood when she saw me. Got something to say? Spit it out, I muttered. She huffed. Can you not talk like that? If not, I'm leaving. She scowled. What did you say to my cousin? Why did he hit me? I rolled my eyes, refusing to engage, but she grabbed my sleeve. George. She hesitated. Did you always live on the balcony? I froze. Why? Your family has 3 bedrooms. Why did you live on the balcony? Is that why you bought such a huge house later, and had a custom 3-meter wide bed made? But then why, when you couldn't sleep, would you always go to the study? And why? Why? She wasn't done. I yanked my sleeve away, irritation flaring. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. Not now, not ever. Stay the hell out of my business. What did it have to do with her? Yeah, you always crave what you never had. I bought a huge house. I had a bed big enough to fit an entire family, because I had never had those things before. But in the end, that big house, that giant bed, they just made me anxious, empty, lonely. Only when I crammed myself into the study, curled up on a tiny cot, surrounded by books and clutter, only then did I feel safe. How ironic, how pathetic. I thought that growing up, I could make up for what I had lacked as a child, but some things would always stay barren. Chapter 7. The moment Alicia was released from detention, she immediately called all of David's tutors, demanding they make up for the lessons he had missed. Then she rushed into the kitchen to prepare a nutritious meal for her precious golden boy. At first, she glared at me with pure rage, clearly itching to hit me. I waved my phone at her. Try it, and I'll call the cops again. Alicia was seething. Her chest rose and fell as she gritted her teeth. Give David back his phone. No, I smirked. You can buy him a new one, or he just won't have one anymore. Her face turned red with fury. She grabbed David, checking him all over, interrogating him about whether I had laid a finger on him in the past 24 hours. David, looking exhausted, simply shook his head, said nothing. To Alicia, his silence meant only one thing. I had definitely done something to him, but she was wary now. She didn't dare touch me. She could only clutch her chest, her face twisted with resentment. What a curse upon me, birthing such a disaster. You're a worthless failure, and yet you still bully David. I should have strangled you when you were born. Why didn't I kill you? With nowhere to vent her rage, she chose to ignore me entirely, as if I didn't exist. No food for me, no share of the meals. Even the drinking water was moved into David's room. I shrugged it off and went to the balcony. I sat there, eating a pack of buns under the streetlights outside. They were delicious. From that day on, Alicia erased me completely. If it weren't for the fear of gossip, she probably wouldn't even let me step into the house. But I didn't care. Every morning, I went to work. Every night, I came back late. When I was hungry, I ate bread. When I was thirsty, I drank bottled water. The only annoying thing was that Willow just wouldn't go away. It rained that night. At first, it was just humid, but then the wind picked up, bringing a sharp chill. I stepped out of the store, tucking my chin into my collar, wondering which route to take home. A black umbrella appeared in front of me. Take it, Willow said. I acted like I didn't see it and moved to the side. She huffed, annoyed, being stubborn again. You always do this, always pretending to be tough. What are you gonna do? Run home in the rain like an idiot? Go on then. Keep acting cool. You were always like this, so damn frustrating, so stubborn, like a stupid mule. I snapped. I turned and glared at her. What the hell do you want? She gripped the umbrella tightly. Her voice softened. I want to ask you something. Why did David jump? George, do you not care at all? He's your brother, your twin, the person closest to you by blood, and he jumped. He died. Don't you want to change that? Don't you want to save him? You should be by his side, protecting him, taking care of him, not wasting time working some job. Her words dripped with righteous conviction, like some saint radiating divine light. Her holy glow was practically blinding. The irritation in my chest slowly faded, and instead, I laughed. Willow froze, confused, uncertain, like she had more to say but didn't know how. I didn't give her the chance. I turned, and ran straight into the rain. The downpour hit me hard, drenching me instantly. I couldn't keep my eyes open. My clothes stuck to my skin, heavy and cold, but I didn't stop running. I ran all the way home, shivering, soaked to the bone. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked harder. Still nothing. I exhaled shakily and slumped against the door, exhausted. My body felt weak, trembling. I pressed a hand to my forehead. It was burning. Great. As if things weren't bad enough, I was definitely running a fever. Alicia wouldn't open the door. David wouldn't care. I didn't even have a key to this damn house. What kind of shitty rebirth was this? I leaned back against the door and drifted into a feverish haze. I didn't know how long I was out before. The door suddenly opened. A sliver of hallway light cut through the darkness. I looked up. David stood there, wearing a tank top, staring down at me with a blank expression. I shoved past him and stumbled inside, dripping water onto the floor. A laugh slipped out of me. Wow, you actually opened the door for me. I thought you'd be happy if I just died out there. David said nothing. He just closed the door and quietly grabbed a mop, wiping up the puddles I left behind. Alicia's cold indifference was different. David wasn't cold. David was empty. Like I wasn't even there. Like he didn't see me, didn't want to see me. Then why? Why the hell did he ask me for help back then? I asked. David, have you ever, just once, wanted to stand up for me? You've always been the favorite. You've had everything, but you never said a word for me. Are you proud of yourself? Watching me get beaten, neglected, mistreated, while you lived like a goddamn prince. Did that make you happy? Do you hate me that much? David still didn't speak, but his hand stopped moving. I waited. 1 second, 2 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. The light in my eyes dimmed. I shifted my foot, about to turn away. David suddenly shot up to his feet. The mop clattered to the floor. His arms trembled violently. His voice strained and low. Through gritted teeth, he growled. Yes, I hate you. I fucking hate you. George, you're a worthless failure. When do your memories start? 6 years old, 8, 10. Mine started at 2, when you were stacking blocks and playing with toys. I had already memorized the entire 3-character classic. Mom was thrilled. She called Dad, made me recite it over the phone. She told him to come back immediately. She wanted to take me for an IQ test. 120. That was my score. Above average, but nothing extraordinary. But Mom refused to accept that. She was convinced she had given birth to a genius, and geniuses need special treatment, special education. She dreamed of a brilliant future. I told her I wanted candy once. She said no. Geniuses don't eat candy. But Dad secretly bought me 2 pieces anyway. I ate the lychee-flavored one, the orange one. I saved it for you. That was the last piece of candy I ever had. George, how could you live so carefree? I begged you to stop playing outside, to stay with me, to study with me, to keep me company. But you couldn't sit still. You couldn't focus, because you're useless. You were a failure, so Mom hit you, yelled at you, abandoned you. But I was a genius. If I ever stopped being a genius, if I ever became a failure like you, she would have killed me. Chapter 8. A flash of lightning split the night sky, illuminating David's face. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with fear, despair, and helplessness. Then, a deafening clap of thunder followed. I shuddered involuntarily, the bone-chilling cold creeping from my fingertips through my entire body. I asked, "What the hell are you talking about? Who would kill you, Alicia?" David clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. You don't understand. You don't understand anything. Have you ever lived in a room that couldn't be locked? Where, at any moment, someone could silently appear behind you. She couldn't understand the books I read, but she would suddenly speak, telling me I was sitting too close to the pages, telling me my posture was wrong, telling me I couldn't let my mind wander. I couldn't relax for even a second. Those eyes were always there, always watching. Have you ever woken up to find someone standing at your bedside, opening your eyes to see someone just watching you, wiping your sweat, tucking you in, gripping your hand, or sometimes, just staring, not saying a word? She would whisper, "You are my everything. You're all I have. You have to work hard. You can't fall behind. You must be the best. My child should be the best. Only if you are the best, your father will come home. He won't abandon us. Otherwise, what will we do? If that happens, I can only take you with me, to die." Saying these words seemed to drain the last of David's strength. He leaned against the sofa for a long while before slowly standing again. His voice had returned to its usual flat calm. "Mom took sleeping pills. She won't wake up tonight. You came in on your own. This has nothing to do with me." His steps were unsteady as he walked away, back to his room, moving like a ghost. I exhaled, all the tension leaving my body. I collapsed into a chair. There were so many questions I no longer wanted to ask, including the ones about the words carved under the bed. David's suicide had always been a mystery. He never left a note, not a single word. Alicia nearly tore the house apart, desperate to find a reason, a why, until someone lifted the bed frame, and the entire room fell into a stunned silence. Etched into the wooden slats beneath the bed, in jagged, desperate strokes, were words that choked the breath out of everyone in that room. "Help me, help me, help me. George, help me." Why did David need saving? Why was my name there? Alicia had grabbed me by the throat, her voice raw and frenzied. "What did you do to David? Did you cause this? George, why the hell didn't you die instead? Why wasn't it you?" I didn't know. Why? Was David asking me to save him? Or was it because of me that he needed saving? By then, Alicia's hatred no longer affected me, but I had been thrown into uncertainty. David, what were you trying to tell me? That night, I had taken over his room. After he shut the door, I crawled under his bed. It was spotless, not a single speck of dust, even cleaner than the floor outside. I turned on my phone flashlight and aimed it at the wooden slats above me. The words sprawled across half the space, cramped, uneven, desperate. My fingers trembled as I reached out, brushing over my name. David, were you asking me to save you? Chapter 9. Alicia glared at me. How did you get in here? I sipped my porridge leisurely. Locking me out last night was the first and last time. Otherwise. Alicia let out a cold laugh. Otherwise? Otherwise what? This is my house. You come in when I let you in. If I don't, George, what the hell are you doing? She shrieked, hesitating between stepping forward and staying back. I grabbed David and pressed his head down, scissors hovering just above his scalp. He didn't move. Aside from a quiet grunt of pain at the first tug, he didn't make a sound. Alicia's entire body trembled, torn between fury and panic. Let go of David. What do you think you're doing? I raised an eyebrow. Don't move. Otherwise, I won't know if I'm cutting his hair or his neck. Alicia gasped sharply. George. Snip, snip, snip. Chunks of David's hair fell to the floor. Alicia let out a cry, like I was slicing into her flesh. Her reaction delighted me. With no regard for style or symmetry, I wielded the scissors ruthlessly. Hair rained down in uneven clumps, scattering messily across the ground. Alicia's sobs and shouts rang in my ears. David sat there, silent and still, his head bowed, as if none of this had anything to do with him. Finally, I tossed the scissors aside. Alicia lunged at me, shrieking, shoving me backward. She cradled David's face in her trembling hands, her expression devastated, like someone had just defiled her most precious treasure. Then, with another scream, she grabbed a stool and swung it at me. I bolted, but just as I reached the door, something heavy slammed into my back. Pain shot through my body. I sucked in a sharp breath, but I didn't stop. I sprinted down the stairs and crashed right into Willow. Her eyes widened with concern. What happened? You're so pale. Are you hurt? What was that noise upstairs? Were you fighting with your mom? Get lost. I snapped through gritted teeth. She grabbed my arm. Why are you always like this? George, can't you just talk to me like a normal person? You're like a damn rock in a latrine, stubborn and foul, no matter what. She's still your mother. I took a deep breath, yanked my arm free, and growled. Don't push me this early in the morning, or I'll slap the hell out of you. Willow frowned. George. Willow. I locked eyes with her, my voice cold. You grew up in a damn honey jar. So listen carefully. Stay away from me. Stay away from my family. And stay the hell away from David. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Her face darkened. I won't, she said. George, no matter what, I won't give up on David this time. I will save him. I laughed. A sharp, mocking laugh. Save him? And who the hell are you? Does he even remember who you are? You think reading a couple of redemption stories makes you some kind of saint? Give me a break. Chapter 10. Days passed, neither fast nor slow. I had completely severed ties with that house. Whenever I was around, the atmosphere would plummet to sub-zero levels, turning the place into an icebox. Alicia took David to the barber to fix his hair. The only solution, shaving it all off. Now, he looked like a monk fresh out of the temple, begging for alms. He was even colder toward me. Not a single glance, not even in passing. I continued my routine, early mornings, late nights, keeping myself busy. The only nuisance. Willow. After disappearing for 3 or 4 days, she suddenly started showing up at the fried chicken shop. Every single day, she'd sit there for hours. We didn't talk, but I could feel her staring at me, spacing out, lost in thought. Summer vacation was already more than halfway over. I got my first paycheck in this life, and finally, the day I had been waiting for arrived. Tomorrow, David would perform at the city's music gala, a grand event, live-streamed. An occasion important enough that even our perpetually too busy father had to make an appearance. Alicia was visibly on edge. She hovered over David, making him practice his piece over and over again. Don't be nervous, she kept repeating. Just perform well. You must perform well. No mistakes. Not even one. I snorted. Alicia shot me a hateful glare. The next morning, before the sun had even risen, she dragged David out of bed to practice again. I buried myself under my blanket, trying to block it all out. By the time I woke up, they were gone. The fried chicken shop was busy that day. While cleaning up, Willow's cousin asked, "Where's my sister? She didn't show up today." I shrugged. No idea. She's classy, probably off enriching her soul somewhere. He frowned. The hell does that mean? I just smiled and didn't bother explaining. That night, when I got home, Alicia was practically dancing with joy. David is my pride and joy, she kept saying. Clearly, the performance had been flawless, but Martin, our father, was nowhere to be seen. I raised an eyebrow. Where's my dear old dad? Ignoring home 3 times in one day. Alicia's smile froze. Her entire body stiffened. You wouldn't understand, she muttered. Your father is busy. Where do you think all the food and drinks you consume come from? Do you think making money is easy? I laughed. Oh, and here I thought he was busy entertaining his mistress. Alicia flinched. Then she narrowed her eyes. What nonsense are you spouting? I shrugged. Fine, call it nonsense. Then, her expression darkened. She stepped in front of me. Do you know something? I smirked, watching her patience unravel. Just as she was about to snap, I said, Butterfly Hotel. I saw him walk in with a woman in his arms. Alicia's face twisted, as if she had been struck by lightning. Her features contorted into something grotesque, monstrous. She grabbed her purse and stormed out without another word. Between Alicia and Martin, I hated Martin more. As a child, I respected him. Unlike Alicia, he wasn't openly biased. He often scolded her, saying, both of them are my sons. How can you treat them so differently? So I told him everything. I told him about my beatings, my neglect, and then I said, if you and Mom ever get divorced, I want to live with you. Martin had ruffled my hair. His eyes filled with something like guilt, something like relief. But that night, when he and Alicia got into an argument, he had thrown my words right in her face. Even George wants us to divorce. He doesn't want to stay with you. Look at what a terrible mother you are. Then he grabbed his suitcase and left. Alicia had turned to me, eyes dark and dangerous. She had dragged me by the hair into the kitchen, made me kneel there all night. I had cried, calling Martin over and over, begging him to come back, telling him I was scared. He had cursed Alicia out over the phone, comforting me with empty words, but he never came back. Never. That was his concern. Alicia had made it clear, she didn't love me. She didn't care about me. Martin had always claimed to care, but in the end, he did absolutely nothing. And then he told me, I do care about you. I just can't do anything about it. Chapter 11. David slowly got up, ready to return to his room. I spoke. Wash your face, change your clothes, and come with me. His steps paused, but he didn't move further. I frowned. I'm only waiting 10 minutes. If you're not ready by then, I'm leaving. He hesitated. Where are you taking me? I smirked. To sell you off. For a moment, David looked utterly lost. His dazed expression amused me. I tapped the table. Hurry up. David flinched and spun around, nearly tripping over himself as he rushed into his room. 8 minutes and 30 seconds later, he emerged, dressed in the same monotonous white shirt, but his face had some color to it now. His breathing was uneven. He must have rushed. I nodded toward the door and led the way out. David followed exactly 1 meter behind me at all times. Whenever I turned back, the distance remained unchanged. First stop, the fried chicken shop. My cousin widened his eyes. Holy shit, you really do look identical. Then he laughed. But you're easy to tell apart. Your brother looks all proper. And you look like a damn street punk. I chuckled. Well, we're different people. Of course we're easy to tell apart. I grabbed a bag of fried chicken and a cup of Coke, placing them in front of David. This is our best-selling salt and pepper chicken. Try it. David obediently picked up a fork and started eating. I leaned back and spoke casually. I work here part-time when I'm not at home. I'm usually here. The boss is nice. Co-workers are friendly. But there's a lot to learn. It took me half a day just to learn how to make this chicken. You're smart, though. You'd probably get it in an hour. I'm also learning how to make fried chicken burgers. It's pretty fun. David listened quietly, eating in small, careful bites. Halfway through his chicken, I took the plate away. Save some room. We're eating more later. Is there anything you want to eat? I asked. David thought for a moment. Street food. Next stop, University Town. An entire street lined with food stalls. We walked from one end to the other, then looped back again. After an hour and a half, David's face had turned pale. Stomach ache? I asked. He nodded. All right. No more food. Let's go to the next place. Bus ride, 20 minutes. David looked confused when we arrived. I didn't explain. I led him into a small, old apartment building. Second floor, third room on the left. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. It's small, just a bed, a sink, and a bathroom. I bought the desk and chair myself. Not much choice. This was the cheapest rental near school. I used Willow's cousin's ID to rent it. He paid for a year up front, and I pay him back monthly. I placed the key in David's hand. This door can be locked from the inside. There's only one key. If someone knocks, you can choose to open it, or not. Do you want to stay here for the night? David gripped the key so tightly that his knuckles turned white. I didn't wait for his answer. I turned and left. Outside, I sat on the steps for a long time. Finally, I heard the click of the lock turning. The corner of my lips curled up slightly. Then I stood and walked away. Meanwhile, Alicia was losing her mind. Alicia had never been easy to deal with. She was obsessive, controlling. Anything that slipped out of her grasp drove her insane. And the one thing that could push her over the edge completely was Martin. Martin, who ignored her calls. Martin, who never took her out. Martin, who rarely came home. Martin, who always said, "Do you know how busy I am? Do you know how hard it is to support a family? Fine, then you go work and I'll stay home with the kids." Alicia was all bark and no bite. She could scream, throw tantrums, and act unreasonable, but with Martin, she always backed down. As long as he came home, it was enough. As long as he didn't divorce her, it was enough. Did she really not know about his affairs? Impossible. She just pretended not to see, until I ripped her illusion apart. She stormed into the hotel and attacked the mistress. Martin, furious, kicked her out. What he didn't expect was that someone had already reported the hotel for illegal activities. Not only did the police arrive, but so did reporters. Everything was caught on camera. Hospital for some, police station for others. A wonderful night. The next morning, when I stood in front of David again, his expression shifted from confusion to shock, then realization, then pure dread. "George, what are you doing?" he asked. In the window's reflection, my head gleamed under the light. I had shaved it. A perfectly smooth, bald head, just like his. The crisp white shirt I wore, taken from his closet, with my expression as cold and indifferent as his. We were completely identical. No one would be able to tell us apart. I looked at him seriously. "Let's play a game. Starting today, you're George, and I'm David. You run, and I settle the scores." Chapter 12. Martin refused to admit he had cheated. He insisted the woman was just a subordinate, that they had been discussing work. It was Alicia who was paranoid. "If you don't even have the basic trust in me, then let's just get a divorce," Martin said. The moment she heard that, Alicia deflated. She swallowed her anger, forced herself to accept his explanation, and pretended it never happened. In the living room, Martin was already impatient. "All right, I've brought you home. There's still work to do at the factory. I need to go." Alicia frowned. "You're not staying for dinner?" "Martin, do you even care about this family? I run around all day keeping things in order. And you barely set foot in this house before you're already leaving." Martin cut her off as he stood. "Can you just stop? Do you know how much money I lost because of your tantrum today? If I don't go back now, what do you expect me to do? Let the client walk away? Stop making money? Should we just starve?" Alicia fell silent. She looked like she was choking on her own words, unable to swallow them but unable to spit them out either. Martin shot her a look of pure disdain, then turned to me, his expression immediately softening. "David, focus on your studies and listen to your mother. If you need anything, just ask, I'll get it for you." Then he asked, "By the way, where's George? I haven't seen him all evening." "Alicia, did you scold him again? You really need to stop. Both kids are yours. How can you be so biased?" The moment his name was mentioned, Alicia nearly fainted from rage. I spoke slowly. "George is gone. I sent him away." The room fell into dead silence. Martin turned to me, his brows furrowing. "David, what do you mean by that? What do you mean you sent George away?" Alicia, on the other hand, seemed reinvigorated. "Did George bully you again? That little bastard. Our family is cursed." I remained calm. "George was affecting my studies. I couldn't concentrate, so I told him not to come back until after the college entrance exams." "But," Martin started, his face full of disapproval. "David, no matter what, George is still your brother. He may be troublesome, but that's Northwest reason to drive him away." "That's not right," Alicia immediately countered. "What are you talking about? Do you even know what George has become? Look at David's hair. That was George. He shaved his own brother. He even called the cops on me. Kicking him out was the right thing to do. I've wanted him gone for years." Martin clenched his jaw. "Do you even act like a mother? This house is a mess because of you." Alicia snapped back. "And do you act like a father? You're impossible. I'm done talking to you." The two of them launched into yet another screaming match. I stood, breaking the tension with a composed voice. "I think the most important thing right now is the college entrance exam. Everyone in this family should make sacrifices for it. Since George is also part of this family, a little sacrifice from him is hardly a big deal." Alicia's eyes lit up. She nodded enthusiastically. Martin hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Forget it. Do whatever you want. I don't care anymore," he muttered. I turned to him. "Dad, you're the pillar of this family. How could you not care? Actually, I do have something to ask of you. Could you give me 50,000 yuan? Martin's eyes widened. "David, why do you need 50,000? "It's for George's living expenses, tuition, and rent for the next year." I promised him that if he left quietly, he wouldn't say anything to anyone. He'll tell people he left voluntarily. 50,000 yuan wasn't much, more than enough for a student to live comfortably for a year and still have some leftover for university. But it also wasn't an insignificant sum, especially for Martin. He had no problem casually spending that amount on expensive gifts for others. But giving it to this family, that was another story. "We're all family. Why should we talk about money? George is being ridiculous." Martin scoffed. Alicia agreed. "Why should we give him anything? He thinks he can just demand money. Who does he think he is? I let them vent. Then, in a light voice, I said, when I become the national top scorer in the college entrance exams, I'm sure there will be plenty of media interviews. I really hope there won't be any unpleasant rumors circulating by then. Silence. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Chapter 13. Martin handed over the 50,000 yuan with a face full of reluctance, while Alicia looked like she had just had a piece of her flesh bitten off. When I brought the money to David, he was sitting in the fried chicken shop, wearing a ridiculous blonde wig while eating fried chicken. Willow stood beside him, learning how to fry it herself. She'd glance at him after every step, waiting for his approval, and when David finally gave a slight nod, Willow's lips curled into a satisfied smile. I watched them for a long time. Then, without hesitation, I turned and walked away. Willow caught up with me at the bus stop. George, she was panting, slightly out of breath. I knew from the first moment that wasn't you. David's suicide, it was because of your parents, wasn't it? And this is your plan, taking his place. George, what exactly are you trying to do? I turned toward her, gently smoothing her slightly messy hair, just like I had done in my past life. Willow froze. Her eyes swirled with an emotion I couldn't decipher. George, don't do anything reckless, she whispered. I sighed. You're afraid I'll kill myself? Do I look like the type to do that? Willow shook her head. No. If you ever decide to die, you'd take someone down with you. Not bad. She knew me pretty well. I chuckled. So, stay out of my business. If you really want to do something, just keep helping David, like you did today, filling in the gaps, fixing what he misses. Willow, you're not the heroine of some redemption novel. The only person who can save David is himself. Back home, Alicia had already prepared dinner. The same repetitive menu: braised beef, scrambled eggs, vegetables, rice, and, of course, a glass of milk. David, drink your milk while it's hot, she said. I picked up the glass and, right in front of her, poured the entire thing into the sink. She gasped, looking utterly shocked. David, what are you doing? I'm not drinking milk anymore, I replied. Her expression twisted. Why? Do you have any idea how nutritious it is? I've never even touched this milk. I always saved it for you, and you're just wasting it. I frowned. You really don't know I'm lactose intolerant. David had already told me. He knew he was lactose intolerant. As a kid, he didn't drink milk often, only occasionally, when Alicia forced him to, and every single time, he'd end up vomiting and curled up with stomach cramps. That was when Alicia would get excited, calling Martin, telling him David was sick and he needed to come home. If David refused to drink it, she'd just sit beside him and murmur, "Don't you want Daddy to come home and see you?" Alicia's face darkened. What lactose intolerance? I've never heard of that. David, don't listen to those liars. They just want you to buy useless health products. Mom knows what's best for you. You've been drinking it for years and nothing's happened. Do you think I would ever hurt you? I stepped back, looking at her with pure disappointment. All I ever asked was that you support me properly while I study. Just a simple, reasonable diet. And you can't even do that. Forget it. I'll ask Dad to hire a housekeeper. Alicia's face twisted in disbelief. I work so hard, for who? And now you want to replace me with a housekeeper. David, do you even have a heart? I tilted my head slightly. But you did do a bad job, and I can't even say that. Mom, when you make a mistake, you should admit it. Only then can you improve. Alicia snapped. She hurled her glass to the ground. Then, as her rage boiled over, she raised her hand to slap me, but I tripped her before she could. She stumbled, barely catching herself. I looked down at her, completely indifferent. Mom, you look just like a madwoman right now. 3 a.m. The alarm woke me up. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and stepped into Alicia's bedroom. Her face was still flushed with anger from earlier. After she stormed off, she had locked herself inside, refusing to come out. She hadn't even eaten dinner. I stood beside her bed, twirling the knife between my fingers. When the blade lightly tapped the wooden nightstand, the dull sound echoed through the silent night. Alicia stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and locked onto me. For a second, she froze. Then, panic. And then, pure, horrified screaming. I shushed her. Mom, relax. It's just me. Her voice trembled. David, what are you doing? What are you holding that knife for? She clutched her blanket, scooting back until she was pressed against the wall. Her voice cracked. You wouldn't. I sighed and sat down on the edge of the bed. Mom, is this the knife you always use when you cook for me? I weighed it in my hand, letting the dim light reflect off the blade. It's pretty heavy. Must be tiring to use every day. Even if your cooking isn't great, I can't deny you put in effort. I smiled. Mom, as long as you don't interfere with my studies and my future, you'll always be my beloved mother. Go to sleep. I'll watch over you. Alicia looked like she was about to break. She swallowed her fear and somehow managed to send me back to my room. But what she didn't know, tonight was just the beginning. The next day, I ordered food from a restaurant and had it delivered. When Alicia saw the server bring in the dishes, she lost it. Right in front of them, she threw the food onto the floor, screaming at the top of her lungs. Then she grabbed everything on the table, plates, cups, utensils, and smashed them. Shards scattered across the ground. And I didn't say a word. I simply stood there, cold and expressionless, watching her, silently, until her anger started to waver, until hesitation flickered across her face, until, for the first time, I saw a hint of shame. I clicked my tongue and turned to leave. She grabbed my wrist. "Where are you going?" I met her gaze, calm and steady. "Mom, I have a heavy study load this afternoon. I need proper nutrition." Chapter 14. Fear often comes from a lack of power. As a child, I feared Alicia because I couldn't fight back. She could slap me across the room with one swing. She could drag me effortlessly. She could pin me down, and I wouldn't even have the strength to struggle. Later, I hated her favoritism, her neglect, her cruelty, but I no longer feared her. Now, I could dodge her slaps. If I couldn't dodge, I could run, and if I grabbed her arm, she wouldn't be able to break free. I told my music teacher. My brother grew up eating leftovers and scraps, but he's stronger than me. He barely gets sick. Meanwhile, I was raised on the best food, yet I get out of breath just walking a few steps. I was a gentle, meticulous person. She immediately asked if I was feeling unwell. Concern etched into her face. I gave her a bitter smile and continued. "You wouldn't know this, but I'm lactose intolerant. Yet my mother insists that milk is good for me and forces me to drink it. She says it's for my health, so she controls my diet. She never lets me eat until I'm full. Everything I eat is low fat, low salt, and completely bland. Beef, eggs, vegetables, that's all I ever get. Even when I'm sick, my diet never changes. I never played outside. She said it was a waste of time. These legs of mine, they're practically useless now." Bai's face twisted in distress. "How could your mother be like this?" she murmured. "Good food is only good if it suits the person. Doesn't she understand that everyone's body is different?" I cast her a grateful look, and through the corner of my eye, I saw the half-open door. Alicia had to be here. She had my sheet music in her bag, after all. So I sighed dramatically and said, "Bai, I wish you were my mother. Mothers should be like you, gentle, knowledgeable, respectful. Tell me, how can someone who can't even control their own emotions be qualified to raise children?" Alicia stumbled as she walked home, her mind in turmoil, and the moment she reached the building, she saw Willow standing at the door, holding a box of pastries. "What are you doing here?" Alicia snapped. "George doesn't live here anymore. Stop coming around." Willow pouted, looking a little embarrassed. "Ma'am, actually, I like David. I made these pastries myself. I wanted to give them to him." Alicia froze. For a moment, her gaze flickered between disappointment and satisfaction. Then she turned to me. "David, what's this about? Is it true? Do you have any idea what time it is? You're preparing for college entrance exams. How could you be doing something like this? You've really let me down." I let out a casual "oh," brushed past her, and opened the door. Then I took the pastries from Willow's hands. "Thanks," I said. Alicia snatched them from me and smashed them onto the ground. "Dating, at your age. Asterisk, your father and I work so hard to send you to school, and you're out chasing girls. David, you've truly disappointed me." Her voice dripped with venom, spitting out disappointed like a curse. I raised an eyebrow. "She likes me. She's the one throwing herself at me, not the other way around." Alicia scoffed. "Oh, please, why you? Why not someone else? You must have done something." I smirked. "If that's what you want to believe, I can't help you." Her face darkened. "David, what kind of attitude is that?" I walked into the kitchen, grabbed a butcher's knife, and tossed it onto the floor in front of her. "If you think this is unacceptable," I said coldly, "then go ahead and kill her." Silence. Alicia froze. Willow swallowed hard and took a step back, almost unnoticeably. She was smart enough to realize that appearing in front of Alicia caused trouble. So lately, she had been keeping her distance, circling, watching. But I had called her here today. I had told her, "Come if you want. Drop by as often as you like. If you want to drive someone insane, you can't rely on just one method. You need to attack from every angle so that everything becomes a trigger." That night, I appeared at Alicia's bedside again. I didn't make a sound. She woke up on her own within 30 seconds. The moment she saw me, she bolted upright. I grabbed her hand. My voice was soft. "Mom, it's just you and me left in this house. You'll never leave me, right? No matter what happens. You know I love you, but wouldn't it be better if you were just a little more perfect? My mom has to be the best. Otherwise, what gives her the right to be my mom? You agree, don't you? All right then, sleep tight. I'll stay right here and watch over you. And you'll never, ever leave me." Chapter 15. Just 2 days. After I appeared at Alicia's bedside for 2 consecutive nights, she locked her door. No matter how much I knocked or called, she refused to open it. So, I took a kitchen knife and hacked at the door. The solid wooden door split open in the middle, leaving a small hole. I bent down, leaned in, and looked through it. Alicia stood there, frozen stiff. I grinned and said, "Mom, why did you lock the door? I couldn't get in." "Ah." Alicia's continuous screaming woke up the neighbors upstairs and downstairs. Soon, people gathered around. What's going on?" Alicia rushed out, pointing at me and shouting, "He's crazy. He chopped my door with a knife. He's insane. Somebody grab him." I feigned confusion and said, "It's because my mom locked the door, and I couldn't get in." Alicia said, "That's my room," I replied. "But you broke the lock on my door. You can come and go as you please. Since you love me so much, of course, I have to love you the same way. Isn't that right?" The next day, Alicia, pale and avoiding my gaze, had someone install a new lock on my door. Sometimes, when reasoning doesn't work, there's no need to explain further. She used to say, "If the knife hasn't cut into your flesh, it doesn't hurt. Then go ahead and cut her once." Summer break slipped away unnoticed. I never saw David again. When school started, without even discussing it, he took my seat, and I took his. Just like before, we had no interaction, always avoiding each other when we crossed paths. The only one who seemed anxious was Willow. She asked me what I would do if I couldn't keep up with the grades. I scoffed and said, "Who says David has to be the top student? Does David even want to be number one?" David didn't. David didn't even know what he wanted. He was growing more confused, daydreaming in class, dozing off at his desk during breaks. I bought a book and tossed it in front of him. I said, "Figure out what you want to study and which school you want to go to." David called out to me. He asked, "What is it that you want?" Without hesitation, I answered, "Money, a lot of money." I had already started pushing Alicia to ask Martin for money. Alicia was a complicated person. It wasn't until I became David that I found out Martin only gave the family $2,000 a month for living expenses. She carefully budgeted that amount, always calling Martin to assure him that she didn't spend a single penny on herself. She was proud of that, and the only reason she could justify asking Martin for more money was, "This money is for your child. It's not for me." Twisted, stubborn, self-inflicted suffering. Was she a pitiful person? Yes, but that was her problem. What did it have to do with George or David? Alicia was visibly aging. She was losing confidence. Whenever she resisted, I would quickly crush her. How do you break someone down? Just step outside their logic, ignore their emotions. Then it's effortless. Like asking Martin for money, why would I need a reason or an excuse? It didn't matter whether he was willing or not. If you refuse, I'll go insane. You lose money, you avoid disaster. For half a year, the household was in constant turmoil, but not once did anyone bring up George. Just like when George was 10. He deliberately failed a test, but no one cared. David got new sneakers. He didn't. The dim light bulb on the balcony, no one replaced it. They forgot to give him lunch money, so he went hungry all day, hiding in the stairwell of their apartment. He wondered, if he disappeared, would his parents be frantic with worry? Would they search for him desperately, only to tell him they were wrong and they shouldn't have treated him like that? George waited. From dusk until nightfall, people passed by less and less. The sky grew darker. No hurried footsteps. No cries of distress. George got scared. He locked himself in the darkness, trying to endure it. Eventually, he reached his limit and ran home in tears. Alicia sneered. "You still have the nerve to come back. If you had any guts, you'd never return. You expect me to look for you? Not a chance." Martin sighed, ruffled George's hair, and said gently, "Don't do that again. Daddy will worry. Be good." At that moment, George felt a chill down his spine. Willow asked me, "Do they really not recognize the difference between you and David?" I replied, "No, they just don't care." They didn't care who was David and who was George. They only wanted the best child. And now, under my torment, they no longer had the energy to care whether David was outstanding or not. After all, when Alicia demanded to know why my grades were slipping, I casually told her, "Because of you. You don't provide me with a good environment, and I'm exhausted. They say parents are a child's first teachers. You can't even manage your own body or emotions. How can I improve?" Sigh. If I had a better mom, I'd definitely be much more successful. "Mom, you don't make money, and you can't take care of the house. What's the point of your existence?" Alicia was breaking down every single day. Sometimes, she would look at me with suspicion, but as soon as I started playing the piano, all her doubts vanished. David might not be doing well now, but George was worse. George definitely couldn't play the piano. Alicia couldn't even tell that I was playing the same piece over and over again. Just like she never realized, no matter how much of a failure I pretended to be, I had always been in the top 10 of my grade. The only thing that ever worried me was when Alicia took me to see a psychiatrist. She said I was disobedient, my grades were slipping, and I was rebellious. The doctor's diagnosis was moderate depression and moderate anxiety. I was confused. I thought he was a quack, but later, I let it go. David was sick. Who said George had to be normal? Chapter 16. The days of mutual torment with Alicia were quite enjoyable. But how could I forget about Martin? I still had those photos from my visit to his factory, several snapshots of the sewage outlets, and, of course, the evidence of his ambiguous relationship with his married accountant. Important photos had to be sent to the right people. For business matters, I sent them to his competitors. For personal matters, I sent them to her husband. It wasn't long before Martin found himself in deep trouble. An enraged man with nothing to lose can be dangerous. The accountant's husband held a knife to Martin's throat, though he didn't cut him. It scared Martin enough, and Martin couldn't even fight back. If he did, he'd lose both face and dignity. Then came the investigations from various regulatory departments. They imposed a deadline for compliance. Martin didn't take it seriously. He thought a few dinner invitations and some bribery would smooth things over. 3 months later, his factory was shut down. With no way out, Martin slunk back home in disgrace. And at that moment, it truly became a battle between the two of them. Less than a week later, Alicia, who had been so happy before, could no longer tolerate Martin. He stayed up late and woke up even later. If he wasn't out playing cards and drinking with his friends, he was sitting at home watching TV. He did no housework, left his dirty clothes and socks scattered around, and constantly criticized Alicia for every little thing. It escalated into the most intense argument they had ever had. For the first time, Alicia told Martin to get out. I watched, thoroughly entertained, but they were too loud. So, humming a tune, I went back to my room. David had chosen his major. He wanted to study biological sciences at a university in Anhui. As for me, I followed my past life's trajectory and chose my alma mater. Willow, however, was growing more and more silent. She silently watched me, silently followed behind me. I sighed and asked, "What exactly do you want?" She pressed her lips together and asked, "George, do you like me?" I countered, "Does it matter?" She said, "It doesn't." Taking a deep breath, I replied, "Willow, if you came back just to figure out who I like or who you like, isn't that too cliché? Weren't you always chasing something more sophisticated?" Time pressed forward, grinding us along with it, forcing us to sprint ahead. Alicia and Martin had started divorce proceedings. Countless times, she sought comfort from me, only to be coldly turned away. She broke down crying, and I just watched her, like I was observing some hysterical lunatic. Over time, Alicia seemed to develop a fear of me. I was growing stronger while she aged by the day. How could she not be afraid? But she could rest assured, I would always treat her exactly as she had treated me. Finally, the college entrance exams arrived as scheduled. David had already packed his bags and bought his ticket for that very night. He was eager to leave, desperate to go somewhere new. I looked at him calmly and said in a low voice, "George must exist somewhere in this world. He must live a full life until the end of his days." David hurriedly lowered his head. He stepped forward and grasped my hand. He said, "Brother, I can't stand you, but what can I do? You're also the one I care about the most." That night, Willow stopped me. She said, "You want to provoke your parents, don't you? Use me. I'm offering myself for free." I scoffed, "Idiot." As I turned to leave, her voice lowered. She said, "George, we shouldn't have ended up like this. All these years, I kept wondering if I truly liked you. I didn't know, but I did know that I didn't want to leave you. That day, when you said you were only with me out of competitiveness, that you only wanted to surpass David and never actually liked me, I was hurt. So I lashed out, 'George, I love you.'" I rubbed my temples, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. I wouldn't say I was sad, but I did feel stifled. She was talking about the day I discovered David's portrait. She had dismissed it as nothing more than a youthful fantasy, telling me David was just someone from the past and that I shouldn't take it too seriously. But how could I endure knowing that years of emotions had been nothing but a lie? So, I had sneered at her and said, "Well, aren't we a perfect match then? You used me as a stand-in for David, and I used you to surpass David. Perfect. Neither of us owes the other anything." Willow's eyes widened. She asked, "What did you just say?" I repeated, "I said I never liked you. I just wanted to win against David for once." Back then, her eyes reddened, her voice trembled, but she still let out a scornful laugh and said, "Well, at least now I don't have to feel guilty anymore. George, you really are nothing compared to David. I regret ever using you as a substitute." The cruel words still echoed in my ears. But now, everything had changed. In the end, I said nothing more. I simply walked into the shadows. Chapter 17, Extra, David. David jolted awake from yet another nightmare, sitting up abruptly, clutching his chest, gasping for air. It had been 8 years since he left, and he still couldn't sleep peacefully. He was trying his best to live, making friends, seeing the world, conducting experiments, doing research. Everything seemed to be getting better, but only David knew, on some quiet nights, he still had the urge to climb onto the windowsill and jump, but he couldn't, because now, he was George, and George had to live a full life until the end of his days. David had hated George ever since they were children. George was like an indestructible cockroach. No matter how Alicia treated him, he would, at most, be sad for a night. By the next morning, he'd be back to his usual grinning, reckless self. How could he be so carefree, so free? He did whatever he wanted, went wherever he pleased, but David couldn't. His life was filled with endless tutoring classes, endless exercises. He had to work tirelessly to be Alicia's perfect child. George had a pair of healthy legs. He could run to any corner of the world, but David's wings had been clipped, his limbs broken. He had nowhere to go, and that drove David to despair countless times. He had wished, so many times, that his brother would see him, save him. David never imagined that love itself could be what destroys a person. Perhaps, in the end, he really wasn't as strong as George. David thought, this is it. This is my life. This is all it will ever be. But then, George gave him a choice. The choice to become George. David admitted it. He was tempted. This was his 8th year as George. One day, a friend sent him a message in surprise. Hey, look at this. Doesn't this guy look just like you? I was stunned. Are you sure you don't have a long-lost twin brother? David stared at the attached photo, greedily zooming in, over and over again. It was a man with a sharp, serious expression, dressed in a professional suit, wearing gold-rimmed glasses. He exuded an air of arrogance and defiance. It was George, the real George. David had tried countless times to find out news about George. He knew George had gotten into a great university, but that wasn't what Alicia wanted. What would she have done to him? David tossed and turned for nights. Eventually, he bought a ticket home, sneaking around for half a month, until George told him to get lost. David wanted to ask about their mother, how she was doing now. George snapped. That's none of your damn business. She's barely enough for me to mess with. If it were you, that useless piece of trash, you'd let her walk all over you. David thought, yeah, he really was useless. Why did the struggles that nearly broke him never seem to affect George at all? David had always known that George was brilliant. He had to fight tooth and nail just to stay at the top of their class. George could break into the top 10 with ease. He had to practice over and over to memorize a music piece. George could play it after hearing it once. David had been terrified. If their family had to have a failure, he wanted it to be George. But now, it seemed, he had been the failure all along. And maybe, that wasn't so bad. David suddenly missed George terribly. He pulled out his phone, dialing the number he had memorized by heart. The call was answered almost immediately. A voice on the other end asked, "Who is this?" David gripped his phone tightly, his entire hand trembling. He couldn't say a word, his breathing just grew heavier. After a long silence, George spoke. "I'm busy. If you're not afraid anymore, then come back." David felt his eyes sting. He hummed in response, his voice light, almost joyful. He was willing. He wanted to go home.